Think about your cat for a second. Right now, it's likely engaged in one of three activities: sleeping for the 14th hour today, staring intensely at a dust mote, or screaming at you because it can see the bottom of its food bowl. If you were an ancient human 20,000 years ago, trying to survive in a world where every single calorie was a matter of life and death, your cat would look like a complete logical failure. In the logic schema of prehistory, everything had to have a purpose. Our ancestors were the ultimate pragmatists because they had to be. Look at the dog. We understand the logic of the dog perfectly. We accidentally domesticated dogs because they were our biological multi-tools. They helped us track giant animals over miles. They guarded our camps against the terrifying predators that hunted us in the night. They even provided warmth during those brutal prehistoric winters where a cold night could mean you simply didn't wake up the next morning. The deal with the dog was a clear, active exchange. We give them the scraps of our mammoth kills, and they give us their muscles and their noses. It was a partnership of labor. But then, there's the cat. From an evolutionary perspective, the cat is a total anomaly. It doesn't pull a sled. It won't help you bring down a deer. It won't even bark if a stranger approaches your camp. In fact, if a predator attacked, a cat's first instinct would be to climb the nearest tree and watch you get eaten with mild curiosity. So why did our ancestors, people who are often just one bad season away from extinction, decide to invite these tiny, semi-sociopathic tigers into their inner circle? To find the answer, we have to look at the moment the human logic schema changed forever. We have to look at the day we stopped being wanderers and started being owners. For about 99% of our history, humans were on the move. We were nomads, following the seasonal rhythms of the earth. Ancient humans spent their days gathering, hunting, and moving to wherever the resources were. In this nomadic schema, you didn't have a storage problem because you didn't have anything to store. If you found a patch of berries, you ate them. If you killed an animal, the whole tribe shared it until it was gone. You lived a hand-to-mouth existence, which meant your environment was always changing. Because we were always moving, we didn't have pests. If a few mice found your camp, you'd be gone in 3 days anyway, moving 10 miles down the river. The mice couldn't keep up. But about 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans discovered agriculture. We realized that if we stayed in one place, cleared the land and planted seeds, we could create a surplus. This was the birth of wealth. For the first time, an ancient human could be rich, which in the Stone Age just meant having more food than you could eat in a single day. This created the Resource Protection Schema. We started building permanent structures, the first houses, the first villages, and most importantly, the first granaries. We filled these huts with wheat, barley, and millet. This was our insurance policy against the starving times. But staying put created a massive biological bug in our survival plan. By becoming stationary, we turned our homes into a permanent, unmoving beacon for every hungry creature in the wilderness. And while we were prepared to fight off the big predators with spears, we were completely defenseless against the smallest ones. Imagine you're an ancient farmer. You've survived the predators, you've survived the diseases that often wiped out early villages, and you successfully harvested enough grain to feed your family through the winter. This is your life's work. But as the sun sets and you lay down to sleep, you hear it. The scratching. Thousands of tiny paws. In the logic schema of an ancient village, rodents were a catastrophe. Mice and rats didn't just eat your food, they were a biological weapon. They defecated in the grain, spreading prehistoric diseases that could wipe out an entire tribe in weeks. They chewed through the baskets and the leather bags. In a world with no grocery stores and no medicine, a mouse problem wasn't a nuisance, it was a death sentence. It was a resource leak that humans didn't have the tools to plug. This is where the human biological limit comes in. We are apex predators, but we have specs. We are built for endurance and high-visibility hunting. We can't see well in the pitch black of a grain hut. We are too big to reach into the cracks in the wall. We can't catch 500 mice one by one with our bare hands. Even our dogs, the great hunters of the savannah, were too clumsy for this. A dog in a grain hut is like a bull in a china shop. they'd destroy the storage bins before they ever caught the mouse. We needed a specialist. We needed a predator that operated on a completely different logic than we did. We needed something small, silent, and genetically hardwired to kill things that live in the dark. While humans were struggling with their grain bins, a small predator was watching from the tall grass. This was Felis lybica, the African wildcat. It's the direct ancestor of the cat on your sofa, and its logic schema was perfectly tuned for the rodent crisis. These cats were solitary, fierce, and incredibly efficient. They didn't need a pack to hunt. They didn't need to be told what to do. They were biological machines designed to detect the heartbeat of a mouse through a wooden plank. Normally, these wildcats stayed far away from humans. Most animals learn to fear us because humans are the most dangerous things in the environment. But these cats noticed something interesting. Wherever humans built their grain huts, there was a massive, unnatural concentration of their favorite food, mice. To a wildcat, a human village wasn't a threat. It was a resource schema paradise. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet that never moved and never fought back. This is the moment of self-domestication. Unlike the dog, where humans likely took wolf pups and raised them to be useful, we didn't choose cats. The cats chose us. The cats that were slightly less terrified of humans, the ones with a small genetic mutation that made them more tolerant of our noise and our fires, realized they could live on the fringes of our villages. They moved into our granaries. They didn't ask for permission. They just started working. When ancient humans woke up and found the bodies of 20 mice laid out in front of their grain storage, the logic clicked instantly. They realized that these tiny tigers were doing the one job no human could do. And the best part? The cats didn't require training. You don't have to teach a cat how to catch a mouse. It's literally their primary function. This is the beauty of the Resource Protection Schema. It was a passive partnership. The humans didn't have to lead the cats into the hunt. We didn't have to provide them with expensive gear. All we had to do was nothing. We just had to stop throwing rocks at them. If we tolerated the cats, they would protect our survival insurance. It was a perfect exchange of resources. We provided the safest place on Earth, the human camp, which was guarded by fire and spears, and in exchange, the cats provided 24/7 pest control. This explains why cats have a different vibe than dogs. Dogs were bred to follow orders. They were our employees. Cats were our contractors. They worked for themselves, but their work happened to save our lives. This passive labor logic is what allowed cats to bypass the strict usefulness requirements of the Stone Age. They weren't just pets. They were the first ever security system for the wealth of civilization. So we kept them for the grain. But why do we love them? Why did we go from tolerating them in the shed to letting them sleep on our faces? This taps into a deep bug in the human brain, the need to pet everything. We are highly social creatures, and we are biologically hardwired to respond to baby-like features. We see a round face, big eyes, and a small nose, and our brain releases oxytocin. It's the same logic schema that ensures we don't abandon our own helpless human babies who can't do anything for themselves for a long time. Cats, being the evolutionary geniuses they are, eventually hacked this system. Over thousands of years, the cats that were the most cute survived better because humans were more likely to share their extra milk or scraps with them. They even changed their vocalizations. A wildcat scream is terrifying, but a domestic cat's meow is a specific frequency that mimics the cry of a human infant. When your cat meows at 6 a.m., it isn't just making noise, it's triggering a primal caregiving response in your brain that you literally cannot ignore. We didn't just invite them in for the mice, we kept them because they filled a social void. Cats became a source of comfort in the private lives of ancient humans. They were a predator that we had successfully tamed, or rather a predator that had successfully tamed us. We moved from a relationship of resource protection to one of emotional logic. The next time your cat knocks a glass off the table or stares at you like you're an intern who's late with the coffee, just remember, you are looking at a 10,000-year-old piece of survival technology. Your cat is the living evidence of the moment our ancestors stopped running and started building the world we live in today. They are the guardians of our first surplus, the protectors of our first wealth, and the only predator in history that managed to get humans to pay rent for them. The logic schema of the cat is the story of human civilization itself. It's the story of how we changed the world, and how the world and the animals in it changed us in return. We invited tiny tigers into our homes to save our food, but we kept them because they saved our hearts. If you want to understand more about the hidden systems behind your daily life, like why you can't remember falling asleep, or how we actually survived the most brutal winters of the past, make sure to subscribe to Logic Schema. We are decoding the biological blueprint of being human, one deep dive at a time. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation into our ancient past. Thanks for watching and stay curious.